All right, well, good morning, everyone. It is 9:01. I'd like to call this meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee to order. It is Thursday, February 8th at 9 a.m. here in the Development Services Training Room. My name is Assemblymember George Martinez. I'm going to ask for Assemblymember introductions.
Kevin Cross.
Scott Myers.
Karen Brockett.
On the phone, we have Member Johnson or Member Salt.
Member Schultz here.
Okay, Member Salt. And as other members come in, we'll announce them as well.
Where's Member Johnson?
Oh, Member Johnson is walked into the room. Member Johnson, we're just doing introductions.
Jack Johnson.
Excellent, thank you, sir. I want to make sure your voice is on the record.
Thank you.
And today we have a couple of items for business, no unfinished business. I do want to make a note that we will be, for our next meeting, we will do a deep review of the 2024 legislative priorities and our work plan. So I've been working on that offline and hope to work some details out with my co-chair and have a conversation on that at our next meeting. Today we have some new business items and some presentations. I'll ask for people who are here to make presentations to come forward. There are 2 seats here in the first row. This way you're closer to the front of the room. Reason being, we are speaking to a recording device in the front of the rooms for recording purposes, for public recording, and then also members that are on the phone that may have any questions from both the assembly members and the general public. And I'll also ask any presenters that as you speak or with your presentation or are responding to any questions, you identify yourself for the record as well. Excellent. And with no further ado, we'll go right into our first item of business, which is a presentation from the Anchorage Community Land Trust, better known as ACLT in the community. And we're joined by the Executive Director, Mr. Kirk Rose and company.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair Martinez. I'm Kirk Rose, CEO of Anchorage Community Land Trust. Couldn't be more happy to be here with you today. Anchorage Community Land Trust is a nonprofit working in the community for over 20 years, driving concentrated investment and opportunity into areas of concentrated poverty. And today I'm going to tell you about 3 things. How our organization is doing this work, driving that new investment and opportunity, creating jobs, businesses, and areas of town that haven't seen growth in a long time. How ACLT and the MOA are long-term dynamic partners and how we make each other better. And finally, how we can do even more together through our national network and connections and our local on-the-ground know-how and elbow grease. So this is the start of the conversation. I'm really pleased to be joined by Mihailo Tamali, who is also on the phone, I believe. It'd be great to have him speak up and come off mute so I know he's there.
I'm here. Well, I'm actually in St. Paul, but I'm with you with my voice.
All right, thanks, Mihailo. We've got an economic and community development legend, a legend in his own time, my friend Mihailo on the phone from St. Paul. You're going to get a little bit more from him a little bit later. So, as I mentioned, we've been doing this work for close to 20 years, working in some of Anchorage's historic neighborhoods, really our home base of Mountain View. Many of you are familiar with that story of revitalization, how we made transformation occur in that community that was really built from within. But we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Increasingly, our work has expanded by invitation to Muldoon, Fairview, Spenard, and downtown. And really, we're working to stem the tide of disinvestment that has happened in those areas, work with local business owners, entrepreneurs, people with ambition and talent to bring out the best in those communities by opening up the business of their dreams. We operate a model that has been tried and true, and that's really, what Mihailo is going to tell you a little bit more about, the 25-year journey with his organization in St. Paul, Minneapolis, how we have adapted and adopted that model in Anchorage, and how it's making a huge difference on the ground, neighbor by neighbor, block by block, to open up new businesses, empower entrepreneurs, launch food trucks, see and hold down blocks through retention and create new business investment through expansion of small business. So you're seeing some pictures of our neighbors here, some of our friends. This work is really all about working with and empowering a community that has often been overlooked and underserved, and that's low income, primarily BIPOC entrepreneurs. Tons and tons of talent, ambition, moxie, know-how in that community. People who are doing plate lunches on Sunday on Mountain View Drive, or doing braiding out the back of their garage, or whatever it is. There's tons of talent in the community, and we are doing the very simple thing of knowing them, connecting them to resources like business training, technical assistance, lending, and all this model culminates in getting that person into business in their community so that they are the leader, the change maker, the role model, the generational wealth builder, the employer in their community, right? We're not waiting to import some talent from who knows where. We have talent today in our neighborhoods, and our story at our organization is how those people are making a difference already in a tangible way in their community. So this culminates when they come on the street, when they open their bricks and mortar location. You're seeing some pictures of entrepreneurs that have come through that program. There's hundreds and hundreds of stories at this point of business owners that we've worked with who have done something vibrant, who have done something empowering, who have launched a change-making business in their community. So if you think about a community like Mountain View or Fairview that's been defined by sort of disinvestment or vacancy, or some of these issues that you all are dealing with, abandonment and vacancy on the commercial corridor, what we do instead is say, how can we bring that person from that community, give them the resources they need so they can succeed in their own community and drive change themselves. This model works. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how it's done and the impacts and results. But it's really built around 4 primary pillars, and you're seeing them there. Training. We offer 6 to 12-week trainings in a cohort model. Training is extremely innovative, and we're able to work with communities on the micro level in the context that they need. You may have heard last year of the cohort that we did with the Ukrainian community, new arrivals to our city, specifically taught in Ukrainian to 15 Ukrainian entrepreneurs. We also have launched Indigenous People Setup Shop, which has gone absolutely bonkers, but Alaska Native focused. We've trained over 75 graduates just in the first year and a half of that program. Taught and led by Alaska Native staff, advised by an Alaska Native Advisory Board, and served with microfinance through an Alaska Native CDFI. The lending portion, microfinances, we don't believe that you should train people in small business if they can't get access to small business. Too often, access to small business credit is out of reach. What we're trying to do is help people who have traditionally been underserved get that first rung on the ladder into the system. And so we offer microloans, typically $25,000 or less, through our partner Cook Inlet Lending Center. We are always working to find a way to, we are always working to find a way to financial wellness and to build the whole person so that they are ready to advance in the financial system. But you need money to start a business. There's no 2 ways about it. And credit worthiness is something that has been problematic, racist systemically for a long time. And so we are working to change that in our city today, right now. Business services, or what we call technical assistance, is literally anything and everything a business might run into. We're talking about global trade routes, supply lines. We're talking on the micro level about accounting and your brand and logo. During the pandemic, obviously the digital divide weighed on our business community. There's people who overnight were able to get their business online and say, we're open, check us out. We can sell to you online. Well, a lot of the business community couldn't do that as well. So ACLT was there to work with those business owners. What is Facebook? What is your Yelp review, right? Remember those days. That's the kind of thing that we do hands-on with our staff, one-on-one every day with small business owners. And finally, as I mentioned, it culminates in real estate. How do you get entrepreneurs like Theron and Alicia, Eva's Cupcakes, Vera, who owns Writer's Block, on the street in their community so that their business can define that community, can be the place where their neighbors gather, can add that vibrancy, and make the community that we all love and want to choose to live in, right? It's that connection to these small business places, to the barbershop where they know your name, to, the restaurant that you love. That's what makes Anchorage the city that we love, right? And so these are the people, our neighbors, who are building and defining with us. We just want to show you that we're serving who we say we are, and we're incredibly proud to be doing this. I am a first-generation college student in my family. This work is intensely personal to me. I saw my mom try to raise us 3 kids with a full-time job and a bunch of gigs on the side. She was incredibly entrepreneurial. My family has seen this story play out, and incredibly proud of my mother as a female entrepreneur, small business owner. We are working with that same talent in our communities today. 72% of our entrepreneurs that come through our program are female, women-led businesses. 79% identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. 85% are low to extremely low income. So they see this pathway of small business ownership as a way forward to change the trajectory of their lives and their communities. We've done so many training classes, I can't even count anymore, I lose track, but you see the graduates that we've trained, 451 additional businesses uniquely served through technical assistance or some other arm of our program, thousands and thousands of hours spent one-on-one with entrepreneurs and our staff. And then you can see those microloans, which is really a trajectory we're building to get capital in the community where it historically hasn't been. So that's all the data, but I think the stories are really what matters here, right? You see Jean Gray, Polynesian community leader who opened up Tatalani Restaurant in a vacant space on Spenard Road. You see Missy Sims, known as the Candy Lady in Mountain View, opened a candy shop that the kids love and is a vibrant space in the heart of Mountain View. You see Shara Diamond, who's an Alaska Native Indigenous-owned business who opened Warrior Goddess Tattoo and is advancing Indigenous tattoo practice here in Mountain View. I mean, that's my city. That's a city I get to see and be part of, and it feels empowering and rich and real, and that's the city that I love seeing that we're working to create together. So at this time, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mihailo Tamali to talk a little bit. Oh wait, no, I'm not quite yet, Mihailo. So we want you to also see that this work adds up, and really our theory of change is all about this. So this is our dot map or our cluster, right? So what you're seeing in our work is that, and our real belief is that when you concentrate investment and opportunity where it's needed most, that's where you can make the most concentrated difference. Imagine this map in a little bit different way, right? If all these dots were scattered almost equidistant from each other across the city, it really in some ways dilutes the impact, because our commercial corridors and our neighborhoods are these compact places. And so you can see, of course, you know us, if you know ACLT, you know that we love Mountain View, we're deeply embedded there. You see that Mountain View cluster. You see a downtown cluster, you see a Spenard cluster. And as this plays out increasingly, because Muldoon has blown up our program in Northeast, you're gonna see a larger concentration of investment and opportunity in those areas as well. So we are working in the areas of town, and it's proving out that our entrepreneurs are coming from the places that we have hoped that we could create change, and I think that need it most, because those are the places that are seeing long-term disinvestment and outflow of small business owners. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mihailo to tell you a little bit more about our national network and why that connects to our work here in Anchorage. So Mihailo, the floor is yours.
One moment, please, Mihailo. I just want to announce that Member Volan is on the phone with us as well, and Member Brawley joined us in person at 9:09 today. So I'll pass it back on. Thank you, Kurt. And Mihailo, it's yours.
Thank you, Co-Chair Martinez, and hello to everybody on the Community Economic Development Committee. And thanks also to Kirk for inviting me into this presentation. So I'm sitting in the Frogtown neighborhood of St. Paul, Minnesota, which is an old working class neighborhood. About 30 years ago, when I came to this corner, it was very notorious, had been for a number of decades, for a lot of the vice that went on at this intersection. But on the same corner was a small community bank, family owned, called Western Bank, who was not leaving like most of the businesses here had done, but instead wanted to really figure out how to change this intersection and thereby this whole neighborhood. And so we started right away with lots of conversations with the community right around here. And the first thing we landed on and realized was all the assets that folks in this neighborhood had, not just what the problems were, not just what the needs were, but what their assets were in terms of talent, energy. A lot of folks were doing little businesses underground, in the garage, in the kitchen, whatever. And so the idea really formed early on in the early 90s to say, well, what would it take to take those people from the garage or the kitchen and elevate their business above ground, get them formalized, get them, get them paying taxes, get them paying rent, and really building not just a life for their own family, but starting to impact the whole neighborhood. So that's where the whole model came from that Kirk talked about that is happening in Spenard and Mountain View and downtown Anchorage, which is if you aim at folks that are in these neighborhoods already, but they're sort of down below the ladder. They can't get up to the fourth or fifth rung where banks need you to be at to get a loan. And they, typically have them come out of college business courses or nothing. So what they need is some education and knowledge for starters about how to turn their skill and their activity into an actual business plan. And then they need access to money, as Kirk said, which, again, is not going to come from traditional sources initially. And then they need support all along their journey because before they open their business and after they open their business, it's a very, very overwhelming and often lonely challenge to be an entrepreneur, as most of you, I'm sure, know. And then the final piece, or the final pillar, we call it, is getting them to open up in their own neighborhood as much as possible so that they don't just open their business for themselves, but they open it for the benefit of all their neighbors who come through as customers, employees, or you can just drive by and see them in business and get inspired. So anyway, long story short, we've been doing this model here since the early 90s. In now probably 20 different neighborhoods of the Twin Cities and beyond, in partnership with community-based organizations that have the contacts and the trust of those folks we're trying to reach. And between the training classes that Kirk talked about and the financing and the ongoing technical assistance, we've got at this moment probably about 800 open businesses. Over the 30 plus years, it's probably been another 800 that have come and gone. These businesses, no business lasts forever. But in our case, the average business we've helped start and work with is 10 years old. And on average has 5 employees. Obviously, they're all paying taxes and, paying rent and such. Our lending gets a 98% repayment rate. And I guarantee you, none of these folks were bankable prior to that, but they all move up the ladder then. So we've had fantastic partnerships from day one with our whole banking industry here in the Twin Cities, because we're basically putting people on a ladder that moves up over time as they get their business up and running, they get their back of the house functioning and become bankable. And so anyway, that's kind of how it's been working here over a number of years. Some groups around the country started hearing about it, asked us to come into their community, starting with Detroit, and we said, no, our philosophy is, your community, we know our community, and we don't pretend to know anything beyond our own community, but we'll teach you how to do what we, this model. And that's really where the Build From Within Alliance began. That's also how we started working with Kirk and ACLT and Spenard and Mountain View and Anchorage. Was basically we had to learn how to sort of transfer this model to other really strong community-based organizations. And now, like he said, we have 16 members around the country. They're all, we call it adopting and adapting the model, because every community is different. Every organization we work with is unique. And so we have this really, really fun, really powerful network of these 16 organizations, all doing the same 4-pillar model in their communities, and they interact with each other, I guarantee you, weekly. A lot of these groups, by the way, look at ACLT as a role model for, particularly for the real estate side of the model, but in general for how ACLT has rolled out, the training classes in the different communities that Kirk mentioned, the partnerships with Cook Inlet and other groups up there. And so it's a real positive sort of resource for groups, our member in Houston, our member in Detroit or Philadelphia or wherever, calling up to Anchorage, and then vice versa. So Kirk and his team can call anytime to maybe someone that knows a different way of doing the training class, maybe online, maybe getting social media going on a different type of platform or whatever. So anyway, that's the value of being part of this national network. We're actually all going to land in Washington, D.C. to see if we can get folks in the halls of Congress to pay a little bit of attention to this model. We've had support many times, including from the Alaska delegation, for the work that ACLT has done, and in our case, obviously down in the Twin Cities from our delegation, et cetera. And we're going to try to expand their awareness and appreciation of this approach, because this is a long-term, kind of a slow approach. It's easier to do just straight business lending to businesses that have been established for 3 or 4 years that can show profitability and walk in with their finances, all in order and online. We're trying to get people up to that level. So we're trying to raise people from really the startup up to that level. And that's why we have to really spend time, not just with each other, but with elected officials around the country to try to sort of make the case that this level of entrepreneur talent is real powerful and dynamic, but it needs this type of approach and longer term hand-holding to get to where they need to get. We do feel that we're not only a resource for ACLT, but for any of their partners, including the Anchorage Assembly, if that would ever be of use and of interest. We don't pretend to know a lot, but what we do know, we know pretty well, because we're practitioners on the ground, and if nothing else, can always brainstorm with any practitioner trying to make a difference in their own community. So I think maybe Kirk and Co-Chair Martinez, I'll leave it at that, if that's good, and stand by if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you, Miela. I'm going to come back for about 4 or 5 more minutes of narration, and then we'll leave some time for questions. That's all right, Mr. Chair. So we're proud and long-term historic partners of municipalities. We work together in many impactful ways over the years. I just want to highlight some of those for you all as you think about what's happening and what your actions are moving forward with this community. I want to say first, we really salute your efforts on housing, and I think that the work that we do really is extremely complementary and important to the housing work that you do. We all know that housing in itself is not an end-all be-all solution. We need to build successful neighborhoods holistically, and the work that we do has always been focused in areas where affordable or supported housing is primarily concentrated. So we really think about our work on the commercial corridor within neighborhoods is extremely aligned with efforts to advance housing across the community. And the work of real estate is something that's really in our DNA. And part of the founding of Anchorage Community Land Trust was holding parcels long-term along Mountain View Drive, so that the type of redevelopment that we're seeing now 20 years later could occur, right? So that you can see these amazing businesses and facilities, some of which we'll throw some pictures up here, has occurred. Really, this is about our story is driving that new investment into Mountain View, right? So our role in real estate has been really to play every different part, a role that we could, to see new investment come into the community. So we're a long-term owner, operator, and investor of properties in Mountain View. We've owned 9 different parcels valued at over $16 million. We've been part of property redevelopment in all kinds of ways, as I mentioned. We've dealt with some of the hardest to deal with properties in that community. But you know, the story of the Mountain View transformation isn't really solely just about ACLT. It's about the partnerships with the municipality, with Cook Inlet Housing Authority, with investors like Credit Union One who wanted to be there, with investors like Special Olympics who said this is the place where we're going to have our statewide training facility that's going to host, you know, the nationwide convening of Special Olympics, right? Like, those are special things that have occurred in our community because we've been able to work together as partners to hold property long-term, properties that have often been neglected, abandoned, have issues with contamination, long-term deterioration, right? That's unfortunately in some ways our wheelhouse, but those are the things that we've taken on because when the private sector can't, you're left with the alternative, which is an abandoned parcel or a space in your community that turns over and no one will rent. And those become economic dead spaces that seep into the rest of the community in ways that are problematic. That when a kid is walking to school in his neighborhood and he sees vacant storefront and broken window, that kind of stuff weighs on people in ways, you know, that are measurable and immeasurable. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to change through our real estate work in the community. I want to mention I think 2 more things really briefly. From our work with small business owners, we have a very interesting vantage into what it takes to start a small business. And I think one of the things that we want to work with this community on and have is fee reform, especially for businesses who are low to early revenue. We work with tons and tons of food-based businesses in our work. And we're talking about people who are trying to make a couple $1,000 in summer, you know, maybe putting up a tent for the first time or a fold-up table. And the kind of fees that these folks encounter definitely have a chilling effect on small business in our city. It discourages people from opening in numerous locations. It discourages people from operating within the system, and they choose to operate outside of the system. So there's definitely ways that our city could be friendlier to the startup community, especially the startup food-based community, because we need to foster those businesses in the early stage, not chill them, right? We want to get them to a place where they can make $100,000, but if you're going to squelch them out early, we're going to do detriment to ourselves all over. And finally, I want to share a major development of our organization that the municipality has been a part of. But because of the huge majority of clients that we work with who work in food, one of the challenges that we've encountered over and over again is the need for commercial kitchen space that's permitted, that is rentable, so that entrepreneurs like Mary Ellen and many, many others can get into space to make their product, to blow up, and to add that food vibrancy to our city. Anchorage has an incredible food culture. We see it every day. Food comes into our office from these entrepreneurs, hey, try this, hey, try that. But what it takes to actually get to scale or get something on the shelf or open up your own space is a very, very difficult journey. And you have people who are operating out of their home kitchens, but you have a couple $100,000 investment to get into their own kitchen in a commercial space. So there has to be this intermediary space, and we are working to build our kitchen incubator, which is 4 kitchen spaces rentable 24/7. This is really for that like cabbage to kimchi part of the process, right? We're going to help people do value-add products. We're going to help people with their catering jobs. We've got initial investment from the municipality that we're very appreciative of. We've got $1 million investment from the Rasmussen Foundation, more investment to come. We're hoping to start construction in early 25. But this is going to be a facility that redefines the food vibrancy of our city. We're going to see hundreds and hundreds of small business owners and entrepreneurs come through it in the life of it. And it's going to change the trajectory and ecosystem of what's possible for food in our city. So I'm going to be quiet, but I just want to say we are here to be partners to you. We want to be part of this committee long term. Mihailo mentioned the Build From Within Alliance. Part of that work is that we are all working within our local jurisdictions and are developing what's called a policy playbook of like how this work happens on the ground in communities across the country. We'll share the results of that with you. We'll share our data mapping with you, which you saw just a brief slide of. we're looking at, a number of members have talked to us about a Q1 budget revision, and we appreciate any support from that committee here. And I just want to make sure I hit all my things. So, and then the other thing that I want to mention is the Institute for Justice is a nationwide nonprofit consulting, and they can consult with the municipality of Anchorage for free on ways to make business fees easier or fee reform for the city. So come check us out. I'm always open for a neighborhood tour, and we'll plan to be part of this committee going forward.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you for the presentation. Members, we're going to take a stack now. If you have any questions, I have Member Brawley in the queue. Member Brawley.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And actually, it's funny you mentioned Institute for Justice. I was emailing with them. I met them at the National League of Cities conference, and I wanted to follow up because they have basically, if you imagine, 11 by 17 poster of a city's business licensing process and how complicated it is, showing a flow chart, so helping figure that out. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that up. We can follow up. I had two questions. One was if you could talk a little bit more about, you mentioned real estate, and obviously not all businesses are brick and mortar, but a lot of them want to be or end up being. How much of that is a barrier in this town in terms of cost, renovation, that kind of thing? And then second question for food vendors, I know it's difficult to move from, cottage vendor, in your house up to any scale beyond that. So could you talk a little bit more about barriers that you guys see specifically in Anchorage to that? Because I know both have to do with the city to some degree.
Yeah. Moving into your own bricks and mortar is probably the biggest and hardest decision any small business owner will go into, and it's a level of sophistication and a level of capital that is definitely a big and scary step. Part of our model is working to support, through technical assistance, folks trying to get into real estate so that they can look at the transaction eyes wide open. What we always see happen is, I call it the space you see versus the space you need, right? You see that real estate listing and you drive by and you say, okay, that's for me. And then it's like, well, how much square footage do you actually need? What's the analysis you've done there? What are the TIs you need to make? It's that basic education that we can do with folks. I think also ACLT started as a real estate company first. And what we've really done over the last 5 years is become a real estate company last. And so what's so cool about this model is that if you train, empower, create credit worthiness, provide technical assistance to a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, the way you can look at the real estate opportunities look quite different. It's not like, oh, I have to hold a vacant space and vacant dilapidated space for a long time. It's how do we get this group of credentialed people into the space, connecting people without spaces and spaces without people. So I love that part of what we do, and it's obviously what makes what we do super tangible. No, it's not easy. I could probably talk for 30 minutes about the cottage fee reform, and I think we actually did a presentation when Mr. Webbleton was chair a few years ago on that. I'd love to be able to recycle or come back to you directly on that question, because I could go at length, but it definitely is a compounding amount of fees that make someone who is trying to make less than $5,000 in the summer on nights and weekends definitely question why they're trying to do that.
Right. In the queue, just to follow up on that, there'd be an interesting data point. The fees collected versus the businesses chilled. That may be an interesting data point to kind of get a sense of, because my sense is we're not collecting tons from these types of small businesses, but at the chill level, it might be acute. Member Brown?
I was listening to you talk about the commercial kitchen deal, and it just seems like there's a lot of commercial kitchen stuff happening, but not together. Like Shiloh has the GCI building, they're talking about a commercial kitchen. It doesn't seem to be really moving forward. I've heard that Northway Mall Safeway got a commercial kitchen put in during COVID. And I'm just wondering, are you working with any of those? And the other thing, I grew up in Mountain View, so I just want to shout out, I don't know if there's any other still operating business but Jamaicos Pizza. We used to go there as kids, but it's, it used to be a pretty amazing hub. It's where we went to go out to eat all the time. It was, and our where Red Apple was the Safeway, and so anyway, love Mountain View.
Still a vibrant part of the community.
Yeah, it is.
The commercial kitchen front, there's a dearth of commercial kitchen space in our community, so I think all the efforts are good. The challenge isn't necessarily just the space sometimes, it's the ability to operate the space in a way that works for the entrepreneur and the business owner. So what you see is, everyone's kind of heard a version of this story, but Mad Mirna's is renting to someone from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. because they have a commercial kitchen space. And that works for as long as it works until, oh shoot, we left out some of our supplies and we made a mess, and that's not, or the business owner just says, you know what, it's not worth it to me anymore, or someone else asked and they can pay more. And so what you need is stability in terms of the operator, and people need to be able to also have dry goods storage and cold storage if they want to use the facility over and over again. And so for us, I think in Shiloh's case, they're trying to work within their client base to be sure that access to kitchen is available. I think that's great. I think what we're trying to do is different because it's really an entrepreneurial business model and built off of rental space 24/7. It's going to be a manufacturing facility that sees heavy use and pretty hard wear. A lot of different business owners coming through and really getting down into the business of cooking. But yeah, I think I'm certainly aware of all the efforts in the community. I agree that sometimes they maybe have appeared on the line, but I think there's a lot of need, and I think that folks are working with the community that they see. So, for us, just immediately, there's a huge pool of entrepreneurs coming through our program that we know need rental space immediately. And with the size and scale of our facility, we're able to serve more regional audience.
Thank you. Member Cross?
Yeah, it's interesting because, Alaska in general has a struggle not experienced in most of the rest of the United States other than Hawaii, which is we have very isolated business districts because, it's hard to bring stuff in and just drive to the next town, right? And so the business needs that we have to happen here locally, and preferably organically within our community so that you get, you see that entrepreneur growth from within. And so I'm curious because, what happens is regulations and different things that are created in different environments, and then unfortunately can have a chilling effect on business up here. If you can give us the specifics, you will find this assembly is very pro business. But as you understand, as we've dealt with other housing issues, it's extremely complex. So if you can point to specific things, not just in fee structure and fee reform, but in regulation reform that we might be able to help. Because, I grew up in a very entrepreneur family. My brother owns a roofing company. I've owned businesses, and just from my experience, we've struggled. I can't imagine somebody who didn't have the benefit of having a dad that grew several businesses to have that generational education bestowed upon them. It's a hassle. And particularly, you talk about restaurants, but seasonal work, even if you try to start a small roofing company, it's feast or famine. You're working 16 hours a day during the summer, and then you're living on whatever you were able to close, hoping that everybody paid you during the winter. And then when you come back in the spring, you're going to a significant amount of debt to buy all the materials you need because you haven't paid the job done. And so, like that entrepreneur, those people that are willing to take that risk, that's a tremendous, it can be a burden, and one bad season can kill you. So we talked a little bit about, what debt forgiveness looks like or working with it. I know that, so if you can give us specifics.
Yeah.
The other thing I have is more of a general question. I see AGC was one of your, they were purchased last year by, was it McKinley Capital? Are you finding that the new management is still conducive to your efforts? Have you found any, change in management directions now that they're under new ownership?
I have nothing but good things to say about, we call them Magic now, I guess, which is a nice upgrade on that acronym. MAGC, and they've done a ton of work in building a statewide coalition to serve Alaska Native entrepreneurs. So I'm impressed by their leadership on that effort, and we're partnering with them to do even more for Alaska Native entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's excellent, because whenever you have new management go in, you're curious about the direction. So.
And thank you for your comments. I don't have any specific things to say, just agree with what you said.
Okay, you'll get it back to us. We have a question or comment from Council Gates.
Yeah, thank you. I was interested, Mr. Rose, in what you said about the cottage food fee, and that it's problematic, because I recall also in 2017, we passed an ordinance 2017-62 that sort of revamped our food code for our local code, but also created a cottage food license, and that was intended to address the difficulty or expensive setting up a small cottage food sort of business, and created a section for a cottage food license and a $25 fee. But it was intended, so I think that's pretty honest. That's what it says, intended to be priced. But it was intended to sort of be consistent with state regulations for cottage food and private businesses. And so I wonder if the problem is the municipal code and our regulation for cottage food licenses or the states. And I mean, I don't want to, you said we could talk for 30 minutes, so I don't want to ask you to do that right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just highlighting that it's interesting, because I thought we solved the problem locally at least. But
The issue isn't the cottage food licensure fee. The issue that we see in practice is the mobile vending fees that apply to these folks who are making some of their home kitchens, so they're almost never selling it in their home kitchen. They have to go sell it in a permitted way on the street somewhere. At the Muldoon Farmers Market, at the Spenard Farm, wherever it is, right? And that's when the compounding fees, if you do it at one market, you pay a fee. If you do it at a different market, you pay a fee. If you do it over 1 month, it's a different fee. If you do it over 3 months, you have to buy separate licenses based on location, which has a chilling effect because let's say you go to Muldoon and it didn't go as well as you wanted, and you want to go try the market on 15th or whatever it is. You have to repay that licensure from the area, right? So I think some of these things that are based on geography are problematic for entrepreneurs who are just trying to find the best market for their goods. And there's more to say. I'm definitely hearing an appetite for that conversation, so we can advance that or be supportive as we can. I don't think we're the only voice in that.
Great, and one
that
follow-up.
sounds like the other license fee we have, I think, sidewalk vendor license fee and a roving waiter fee. Those are the ones that you think are
Yeah, I think that's important.
for businesses.
Member Cross?
That just makes sense, that if you pay a license fee and you pay it municipal, that if it is a municipally owned piece of property in which we're allowing those, that one fee would cover all. You would just need to reserve your space. If there's something that we can do to fix that, then let's do it, because it doesn't make any sense that you'd have to pay all these different fees on top of your licensing and your business fee and other stuff. I mean, the job of the municipality here is not to fee you to death. The job is for us to, in order to inspire safe, reasonable business practices. And so I can only see where that would be a struggle if it was private property, right? Because some of these are not on municipal property. Some of these are on private property, in which case, I don't know how the subway, the one that's in the O'Malley Sports Arena, they have that one. They have the one that's downtown on 15th. I think there's a church, there's a market that does that on Saturdays. And so some of these may create some geography because they're on private property. I can see those fees, but gosh, if it's a municipality of Anchorage and here we are just milking them out of stuff, that definitely gives me the angry levels.
And I would say that I think there may be a difference between public fees and then like space fee at a private marketplace or et cetera. So those may be at a different scale. There was a comment from staff member, Honest? Okay.
So I'm the business license official. I do licensing for the food trucks, and so there is a roving vendor license, and I've dealt with right away with the sidewalk permits, and maybe there needs to be more conversation with some of these other departments that are kind of branch permits to this. But the idea with the roving vendor license is it covers all of the municipality's public spaces for businesses to operate. So it's required if they want to operate on public property. And that would be a year-long license, and ideally it should cover those markets. So if they're doing multiple markets, we say you want to do the roving vendor license. If they're only doing like one, then maybe it's not opportune for them to do this year-long license and they want to do the permit. So it also kind of depends on their business
And
model.
scale, right? So if you have someone who is for the first time making cupcakes and trying to get it on sidewalk, they might not want to pay that year
Right.
because they're trying to dip their toe in the water. So that's the exact issue here. It's sizing and scaling of fees so that we're not chilling out businesses. who are very early stage, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe also helping them understand which one
Which
is
option,
right for them.
Right.
Right, so that's part of this. Member Crowell?
Yeah, one other question, how much have you found insurance is a barrier? And I know that's something the city can't do things about, but I know there's health insurance, there's liability insurance, there's, workers, all those things. And it seems like from every organization I've heard, including ours, I think, including the city, those costs just keep going up. And I know that's true for HOAs, all of those things. So I just wonder how much you guys have dealt with that, or can you just talk about the trend in that market or that service?
Yeah, unquestionably, I think we've seen escalation of that cost, and the business owners that we are working with, I think, are trying to find a way forward in the early stage of business, and will try to cut costs wherever they think they possibly can. So we do a lot of TA and coaching on the needs of your small business as you start up and the cost of doing business, and so insurance is one of those that stands out. That's heavy, yeah. I don't know if I can add much more to that, just that, yes, we do see that in expensive.
Maybe just what are some of the common types of insurance? Because I know not everybody does health insurance, but what are
I mean, you have your general liability insurance, you have specialized insurance for whatever industry that you might be working within. You know, many folks are, if you're working within the contracting field, obviously you want to be licensed, bonded, and insured if you're doing labor of any kind. So there's plenty of ways to pay insurance fees.
Great, thank you, everybody. This is as Mr. Rose mentioned, this is an initial presentation, the closing of the distance between our committee and our workflow and the work that they do. I thought it was really important that we hear from them directly. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for bringing information to members. And to Member Cross's point, if there are the very specific things that we can do to help from the Assembly's perspective, the legislative action, bring them forward. We want to see our businesses succeed. I have always been impressed with the particular focus of our BIPOC entrepreneurs and our marginalized communities, and the targeting and the concentrated targeting in the areas of tremendous need for community revitalization and transformation. I think it's powerful. And then also the ideas that the administration may pick up. I wanted to shout out that Lance Wilbur is in the room. And so we are working together with the administration and and our branch to see how we can reduce barriers and grow our businesses and grow our economies. And I think the work that you're doing is important. I appreciate past municipal investments, and I wonder about future municipal investments and ways that we can not only streamline, but we can amplify the work in our community with the strategic investments. And lastly, I'd say I appreciate what was mentioned from Mihailo on the phone, that there is an adopt and adapt model, right? So we're not just cookie cuttering a model from outside in. I think that's really important, because you mentioned kind of the idea of incubating our own community talent. And on that note, we're going to transition into the next part of our conversation, which centers on talent in some ways, but from my vantage point, it's a conversation about the parts of our creative economies, work that's being done in that sector, and specifically last year's big music event that happened in our community, produced by Showdown, and we're going to have a presentation from Showdown now. So I would welcome the slide changeover and thank ACLT for your time.
Thank you.
And just to remind the members, the ACLT presentation and to members of the public is available through our website and this committee's website. You can find those slides online. And just a reminder to our presenters, please introduce yourselves as you're coming up to present. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Belts with Showdown Productions, and then we have Natalie Treadwell with us here as well in a second.
Just for folks who are listening to the recording, we just watched a video presentation that had music. We just weren't just listening to music. Thank you.
Honorable representatives of the Municipality of Anchorage Assembly's Community and Economic Development Committee, I extend my utmost gratitude for the opportunity to address you today. I stand before you not only as a representative of Sundown Alaska Music and Arts Festival, but as a stakeholder deeply invested in Anchorage's economic prosperity and cultural enrichment. As we reflect on the success of the past year and look forward to a promising future of the festival, I urge you to consider the profound impact our event has had on the municipality of Anchorage and will continue to have on our community. In response to the Anchorage Economic Committee's mission to prioritize unrepresented voices and address systematic inequities, we provide opportunities to our local gig economy through vendors, day laborers, local musicians, and donating to local nonprofits. The Sundown Alaskan Music and Arts Festival, organized by local production company Showdown Alaska, has emerged as a beacon of significance in economic vitality within our great state. Rooted in over 2 decades of experience in concert and promotion, Showdown Alaska has steadfastly worked to position Alaska as a dynamic destination for both emergency and established acts, with a dedicated focus on providing entertainment and opportunities for expression to our younger demographics. Showdown has always had a commitment to provide safe concerts for patrons under 21. In 2023, our festival experienced unprecedented growth, attracting thousands of music enthusiasts globally to Cuddy Park over the solstice weekend. This marked a remarkable escalation from our inaugural event in 2022, located at 7th and F Street, demonstrating undeniable allure and appeal of our festival. With 3 stages featuring a lineup of 30 national acts, 35 local talents, alongside curated bars, live artist murals, art installations, and a plethora of local vendors. The festival embodied inclusivity and diversity, welcome attendees aged up to 16 and up with parental accompaniment for those under 16. Beyond its cultural significance, the Sundown Alaskan Music Festival has been a driving force for economic prosperity in Anchorage. In 2023 alone, the event drew significant out-of-state attendance, with hundreds of patrons and artists contributing to the local economy. With nearly 40 local vendors showcasing their goods and services, each vendor has 2 to 3 employees working the duration of the 3 days, with some additional vendors such as Golden Wheel Amusement, Serrano's, and Raw Crystal Collective staffing upwards to 20 people. The festival acted as a catalyst for local business growth and economic opportunities, aligning seamlessly with the municipality's goal for economic development. Moreover, the festival's extensive media coverage reached millions through strategic marketing efforts across various platforms. News from our event elevated Anchorage visibility as a cultural hub while simultaneously positioning Anchorage as a premier tourist destination during the early summer season. We anticipate this year's festival to have an expanded lineup of over 45 national acts, artists, and enhanced amenities. We are poised to surpass previous records and solidify Anchorage's reputation on the global stage for the upcoming years. I implore you to recognize Sundown Alaska Music and Arts Festival as a catalyst for positive change in our community. Our event embodies the principles of inclusivity, diversity, and economic empowerment, aligning closely with this committee's objectives. As we strive to showcase Anchorage's vibrancy and creativity to the world, I invite the committee to engage with us, offering insights and feedback to ensure our festival continues to serve as a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. Thank you again for your attention and consideration. Together, let us seize this opportunity to uplift and empower in forging a brighter future for all Anchorage residents. Now I will pass Natalie on for the
Thank you, Jeremy, for that introduction. I would like to bring the committee through some data points. And just for the record, my name is Natalie Treadwell. So here is a map of ticket orders worldwide. These represent collective ticket orders, so an upwards of 10 tickets per order. We saw purchases in over 7 countries in the world. Here I'll do just a breakdown of US ticket sales. So we saw over 24 states purchased tickets and traveled to Alaska for this festival. So this really is a global festival, and with it continuing to build, we hope to see these numbers increase in the coming years and have more countries and more states have visitors up in Anchorage for this festival. This is the map of the 2023 festival showing Cuddy Park, which was a really wonderful venue. And I bring this map to your attention just so you can see better how we filled the Cuddy Park with the 3 different stages and all the amenities that we had. The Lusac Library provided parking. We had good feedback from them that it did not impact library services over the course of the weekend. They were very happy with the festival. And the feedback we received from them was that there was not an issue with noise, not an issue with patrons parking, and entering the library. And in fact, they had a lot of curiosity, people wondering what was going on, and excited to see something happening in the park, in the community. We also did not block off the playground in Cuddy Park, so the fencing went right along the lakeside, and so parents were still able to bring their kids to the playground throughout the course of the weekend, and kind of peer in and see what was going on at the festival. So just as a recap, I'll read some of these numbers for people on the call. We had over 14,000 people attend through the weekend. That was 4,000 on Friday, 4,500 on Saturday, and 5,600 on Sunday. We hosted nearly 40 vendors, supplying everything from fresh Alaska salmon to tie-dye outfits and crystal and body glitter that attendants could adorn themselves with at the festival. For our media impressions, we had over 4.2 million media impressions through Google Ads, Facebook, and Instagram. We amassed a 22,000 unique mailer subscribers for this festival, and that is continuing to grow. And through the 2023 season, we saw over 80,000 unique visits to our website. So this festival is gaining a lot of traction and is continuing to grow. We expect these numbers to grow in the coming year. So a little bit about Sundown Festival. As I said, and Jeremy noted, we had 3 stages, 30 national acts and 35 local acts. We partnered with Broken Tooth, Moose's Tooth Brewing Company for bars and local brews. And those were in alcohol areas that were monitored, we checked IDs and had 21 and up wristbands, so that the majority of the festival could be under 21. And that was above 16 without parental guardians, but anyone under 16 were able to come in if they had a parent or guardian with them. And we saw a lot of families come in, a lot of younger age children bringing their kids in and enjoying the festival with the family. It was great. A lot of kids in backpacks, and we were excited to see how many younger kids were able to come and enjoy the festival. We had over 10 artists doing live murals throughout the festival, throughout the 3 days of the festival. And those murals were auctioned off and donated to local charities here in town. As we look forward into 2024, we expect our attendance to get up to about 7,000 per day. So in some of the other metrics that we had about 1,200 patrons from out of state. And then as far as out-of-state artists and production crews, there was about 150 to 165 groups of the production crew, artist, management, and that was 60 in 2022. So we continue to see that growing and having talent from out of state come up and share with us at our festival here in town. So just some more of the numbers. As I ran through the 2023 numbers, I will go through the 2024 projected. So we hope to have 20 food trucks and at least 25 vendors. We're going to have a dedicated vendor alley this year, and we're hoping to partner with ACLT to possibly offer discounted vendor fees to them. And we haven't had a conversation with you yet, but I think it's serendipitous that you presented today at this meeting, and that was something that our team figured would be a great way to have just an actionable solution coming out of today's meeting. And we look forward to working with them on that. We project to contract with at least 45 local staff for our internal team. And that's our local team, and then contract out for an additional 45, and that's for our showdown team to run the festival, manage everything from volunteers to security to day-to-day artists, transportation, hospitality, all of the inner workings of making sure that this festival can go on in a safe manner for our community. We also saw a huge amount of hotel and Airbnb reservations just from our internal team. For 2023, we saw 160 hotel rooms and 30 Airbnbs, and again, that is just our numbers. We're not entirely sure about out of state, but you can interpolate from how many people travel that a lot of those people likely also got hotel rooms or Airbnbs. So we expect to be renting at least 200 hotel rooms this year with 40 Airbnbs. So we just really want to convey to you that this is not just about a community event, it's about music tourism as well, and hoping to engage the youth demographic from 18 to 35 to come up to Alaska. I have some examples here of some of the artists that we've brought up in the past 2 years. And their follower accounts in the bottom down here, Baby No Money has over 1 million followers, and he produced a music video in Alaska that you can see has 34,000 likes on it at the time of the screen grab. Oh Jesse also is in the lower left corner. He also filmed a music video in Alaska. And then we have Diplo and Steve Aoki, who both have over 10 million followers. And both of them posted a lot of content while they were here in Alaska. And when we talk about trying to reach that younger demographic, they're not reading travel blogs. They're not even necessarily, looking at some of the print media that comes out about Alaska. They're following these artists and musicians and seeing these really cool, well-produced videos and photos that are coming out of our state and saying, wow, I want to spend my next vacation there. So we hope to really reach this group, and through our artist connections, really put a spotlight on not just Anchorage, but Alaska and all of our wonderful outdoor events. And we work with all of our artists to try to plan travel and cushion their trip to Alaska so that they can have some time to see the state as well. So I just wanted to end with kind of some things of how you guys can help us as the Anchorage Assembly. Please share this festival with your constituents through your mailing list, through your social media, any advertisement at all. We really appreciate and feel free to reach out to us to work proactively to find solutions for anyone in your community who wants to work with us. We're happy to meet with you and work directly. We're also very committed to the Kite Park space, and we want to make sure that is a safe space for our community members, not only for festival goers, but for other members who are displaced in that area or within the archives lot. So we want to work closely with you to make sure that it's a safe festival for all attendees and non-attendees alike. And then just help us identify public and private partnerships. We really are embedded in this community. We're part of Anchorage, and we want to see this festival grow. I think, when we talk about the early years of big festivals around the world, Park City never expected Sundance to gross, $94 million in 2023. And in 1999, when the Coachella Music Festival started, the Valley never expected that was going to be $1 billion festival every year. We have the same aspirations for Sundown, and we look forward to working with the Anchorage Assembly to help build this festival into the future. So with that, I'll leave you with our flyer for Sundown 2024, which will be June 7th through 9th. And I open it up for questions. We also have Helen Fleming here, who's the co-owner of Showdown Alaska, and she's available to answer questions as well.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. We do have some, we'll see if there's any members' questions. I have a few that I'll start off with. First, just on this one, tell us about the date this year and the change of date from last year. What's that about?
So the change of date is actually in reflection to offer earlier tourism season in Anchorage. We know that as you get deeper into the summer, it's harder to get hotel rooms and travel, and we really want to make sure that this is something that there's access for everybody. The event also competed with Pride Weekend, and we didn't want to have that competition there. We wanted to make sure that community members could attend all community events, and there were some other things along that weekend in the community that we just wanted to move it earlier so that there wasn't competition with that. But the main reason being that we want to help open up the early tourism season and really try to open up that early season. And
could I also add, Natalie, that we wanted to also give way for Juneteenth as well. We wanted to really give full focus, and we've been working alongside some of the members of the planning committee for Juneteenth to bring more light and see how we can work better together with Pride and Juneteenth to kind of spread the word about their community festivals as well. And by going first and having such a large attendance, we're able to do that to several demographics and kind of spread the word of community events. Solstice is just packed. We spend Solstice weekend having 20 plus events to go to. We were pretty humbled by the amount of work it took to have a lot of favors called in so that we could even get things from water trucks to fencing to whatnot, just because of Mayor's Marathon, Juneteenth, Pride, and so forth. But really, truly giving way and attention to Pride and Juneteenth is why we do it.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. I was hoping for the latter part to be publicly described today, and I appreciate that because it was Juneteenth week last year. And there's so much going on during that week, to your point. I just want to highlight that back to the idea that what I hear is, and why it was important for me to have you all be invited this early, is because I have a sense from remembering the visioning of this hopefulness that the organizers are extremely professional and really focus on trying to be integrated with our community. So scheduling was the first starting point that I already knew that would be an integration alignment. The other part was I was hoping that you would not leave without talking to ACLT today, so right on. That's called agenda setting. But it's hopeful, right? Because this is really about economic opportunity. But a few meetings ago, I described that where was the cool in our committee, and we heard a presentation from the Alaska Music Policy Forum and about the work that they're doing. They're going to come with a presentation. But I just am really appreciative of the idea of the integration into our community, both in terms of time, space, and necessity with respect to the gig economy, vendors, really being thoughtful in a real big, robust way. I'm deeply appreciative of that. And I really appreciate, because some may think that we as legislators or just elected officials or policymakers really are dealing with code and structural changes independent of branding. And I don't think so. I think what the city does in code, what the city does in budget, says what the city is in branding. So when we're making the right strategic investments, we're sending a message that says we're the right city for other people to match those strategic investments. When we're saying we're a city with our policies that is closed and uninviting and not welcoming, well, that message gets sent too. So when we see, and the ACLT mentioned earlier, the idea of entrepreneurial risk, Lord knows, the endeavor that you all had tremendous amount of entrepreneurial risk just in and of itself, let alone endeavoring to be as big as you all have. So the idea that you've landed squarely on an understanding of integration with respect to branding, destination Anchorage, I love that. And that raises two questions, and we can pivot to other folks at this point, which is, I saw all of the supporters and different organizations that were co-sponsors. Maybe they're in a different place, but does Visit Anchorage support any of the work that you all have done thus far?
I can answer that. Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
You know, we've had multiple talks with them. They offer kind of their mini website where people can go to the Visit Anchorage website, look for things to do, look for experiences, look for hotels, promo codes with hotels, and as well as network with their members as far as opportunities, because you know, a lot of these artists, it's such a ripple effect when you're bringing up 65 artists, and the average of 5 people to 14 people sometimes are in that travel party. So you're talking about multiple fishing charters, multiple helicopter rides, you know, tons of visits out to the Wildlife Conservation Center. You know, they're experiencing Alaska, and we love it. We shared that they're sharing it on social media. That's awesome. And can I add too that, like, you know, yes, music tourism, super important, bringing people here. But can I also add that there's such a mass exit happening between 18 to 35 as well, because they feel that some of the cultural needs that they look at every day on TikTok aren't happening in their city. So are there things that, you know, we're trying to stay on trend, we're trying to be new and exciting so that a lot of those folks can stay. We also employ a lot of those folks during that time as well. We employ so many young people during the festival and prior to the festival that don't get a lot of experience in this technical work. This isn't Los Angeles where you can, you know, manage venues or manage stages or build murals and whatnot. That's not happening every day here, so we're able to, you know, at least experience a little bit of that during this weekend.
No, appreciate that. And just to follow up on that, the idea was that the music folks brought to us is this Cascadia music kind of region. And it really, we went to Boise, Sheriff Constant and myself, to meet with the Tree Fort folks down there that do this big festival. So the encouragement would be to really just have that Cascadia pipeline connected here too as a part of the destination. And I would say, and I would end my time with this and say, I thought it was important, not only that this conversation is cool and I think it's really meaningful to the city, but last year we didn't have the conversations early enough to avoid something that I hope we can avoid this year, which is the cool behind this, the intentionality behind the vision of this should not be pit up against city challenges in a way that it was last year. The branding was not, the timing was not done well, the branding was not done well overall. And it's not on the organizers, it's just how can we be in front of it this year? And so I hope that the administration's taking note. I hope that I heard that you are working with the health department and other folks this year because you really want to be in Cuddy. But I don't want us to be pitting against vulnerable members of our community, opportunities for cool economic development and growth. So at that, I'll turn it over to any other members. Member Braun?
Yeah, thanks for being here. Also, thank you for featuring Chromeo prominently. I was really happy to go to that day. It's not often we get like bands that I've heard of. Anyway, and plenty that I haven't heard of because you guys are cooler than I am. 2 questions. One, I'm glad you brought up the point about people leaving. I was curious just among the folks you work with, maybe not so much patrons, although maybe you have that thought too, how much kind of housing and affordability challenges there are. You know, does that affect your ability to find staff or housing insecure staff or any, you know, kind of what does that look like for the, you know, because you guys are basically, like you said, the demographic is experiencing those challenges.
Can I ask just a for more description, are you talking housing challenges with like our performers and or our actual like, full-time staff, or?
I guess I'm thinking you mentioned like gig workers and folks, you know, because you staff up
Okay,
during these
yeah.
big events.
Yes, absolutely. We don't have enough Airbnbs, hotel rooms, or houses in the city. So everyone on staff gets a guest room usually, or has a guest room that some type of gig worker stays in. So there is a huge challenge there. You know, just with the affordability of rentals, even short-term rentals, and Airbnbs and hotels. You know, you can look online, the average hotel rate during solstice weekend ranged from the low end of $300 to the high end of $650 a night. If you're, you know, a 21-year-old roadie, that's a lot to take on. So we actually bared that cost. You know, in total, this festival was myself and my business partner's life savings, as well as a few private investors, but you know, we spent about $1.2 million on this festival. And that a huge portion of that was housing and hotel, just because of the inflated cost of that time of year in Alaska. And I'm guessing because of the shortage, right? Because that's why the hotel rooms are so expensive, so.
And then another unrelated question, since you were using Cuddy Park, you know, other than kind of the pieces that you brought in, like porta potties and things like that, are there kind of physical challenges with that site, or maybe a physical infrastructure that would be helpful to have there in the future? Just thinking, you know, long-term kind of capital planning for being supportive of festivals like this.
Yeah, we have talked a few times with currently Mike Grant from Anchorage Parks and Rec, but also just Anchorage Parks and Rec staff about, you know, different things that we've thought about, you know, even so much as like more so of a fountain versus a pond to help with like mosquito control, and then different ways to, you know, help the population of like ducks and birds. So there are a few, you know, physical things that would help, but ultimately we love that space. And we really don't have any complaints. You know, we were such a downtown-centric business that it felt really nice to go into Midtown. We do have a lot of like activities prior and post in Sundown that are downtown. And we're looking to also go south side as well, as far as like just kind of a citywide thing. But at this time, I would say we could potentially go back and see, but I loved this site. I think it's perfect for a music festival.
And yeah, if I could just add on to that, we really enjoyed the natural amphitheater that is there. We had the local stage there, and we saw a lot of people enjoying sitting there and using the natural amphitheater. We had kind of a dome that you can see in some of these photos here that added to that stage. And then in just walking around and talking with festival goers, I can't tell you how many people from Anchorage said to me, I never knew this park existed. This is so cool. I'm gonna come back here with my dogs next weekend. You know, I can't wait to come hang out and just have a picnic here. And so it was just really cool to see, you know, community members starting to realize that we have this great park asset right in the town, Anchorage, as well. So we really loved Cuddy Park and we can't wait to grow there.
Member Cross?
So, any parking challenges? Are you able to use the, I guess there's two small parking lots on 40th on either side, east and west, and then the library, surrounding businesses. Any pushback on parking concerns?
So we did hear some concerns over social media, and talking to people, a lot of people ended up using Uber and Lyft to be dropped off. We also had parking at the Lusac Library, and then we had staff parking at the Nana lot that's right there on 40th. And so we're looking for other parking opportunities. We did have the trolley system shuttling people from downtown. That was really great. We're looking to expand that this year. And then we've also considered having an adjunct lot at UAA. We had permission from them to use it last year. There just wasn't enough push for parking on that in that lot. So it's something that we're looking forward to in the future, to be able to have parking and a shuttle system from there. We're actively working on.
I'm glad you can use the library parking lot. There's a lot of asphalt that you guys mostly utilize most of the year. So, the other thing is, I know that the Cuddy Park, the archive site, the adjacent unsanctioned homeless shelter that's there, runs through camp, over the last year, it's kind of grown a lot. Have you been getting communications as far as identifying some of the abandoned vehicles? Is there an effort to clean that up in advance? I mean, and we're not looking to mitigate, but not that I'm aware of, but I do know that over the last year, it's become kind of a dumping ground for things that might be unsettling, might have a negative pushback for visitors. Do we know if there's been any communication, and you know, any efforts of picking up the abandoned vehicles out of there?
Yeah, absolutely. I would, you know, I don't know, I don't think she's on the call, but that would be something that I would pose the question to Meg Zalatel.
All right.
Or, you know, and kind of ask Member Zalatel to see what her plan and Member Rivera's plan is. There have been conversations, but more so proactive conversations as our commitment to say that we are coming back.
Okay.
And kind of posing, because, you know, again, we can't stress enough that we're not city planners or members of, you know, that type of thing. So we're just trying to do a really fun community event. We are coming back, and so it's kind of nice to have, again, like George said, or Member Martinez said, that, you know, we're having these conversations early, so that we're not coming out of, you know, spring breakup saying, here, what's the plan?
Out of interest of time, to wrap it up here, I do want to make sure that, because I know that there is an effort and there is a budget to haul off abandoned vehicles, and that both Cuddy Park and the 3rd and English site have annual, or they go in periodically. So it'd be good to time that in advance of the festival to make sure that any abandoned property is removed. If it's their intention to do it during the summer regardless, then just tying it to the benefit of the festival, that's my point.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, just to allow people to speak before, because we've only got about 6 minutes here, is I think what she said regarding housing is really important. When we're trying to encourage young people, professionals to come up here, the first time in order to experience Anchorage, they're going to want to stay in a short-term rental, not go rent something for 6 or 12 months. So some of our conversations regarding restricting those, limiting those, and making those harder to open will be detrimental when you're trying to grow your population, particularly in a destination location such as ourselves. Take that into consideration as we consider additional regulations on private property ownership and utilization for short-term rentals. Thank you.
Member Braun?
It sounds like you guys are very invested in Cuddy Park, but I'm an East Side gal, and I keep thinking, wouldn't this be wonderful at University Lake or Goose Lake? Or, you know, and then I wrapped in there with your challenges of housing. I know that UAA dorms rents out dorms in the summer, so, you know, you like Cuddy Park, but don't take those off the table, because it could be pretty interesting to have it near the university, and could offer some opportunities there.
Well, and I appreciate the comment about the university housing. That is a great solution, and our team will take that back to the team and see what we can do on that. The university has been really supportive of the event, and we're working to involve their youth through their student program, and just try to involve the university as much as possible, especially as it's something that will help draw younger people to Anchorage, and maybe even consider coming and attending the University of Anchorage. And that's both statewide and national students potential. So, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for the points. Yeah. Really great presentation today. Thank you, Member Braun, because I was going to also mention East Anchorage. I've been lobbying. We have tremendous parks and opportunities for the spillover and the kind of complementary activities. So I think that's cool. Thank you for the presentation to all of our folks today. What I just wanted to note on the way out, first, are there any members of the public here that wish to, in person, that wish to be heard? Any members of the public on the phone? Hearing none, we'll just close off, at least from my vantage point, with saying, I really appreciate when the entrepreneurial energy stimulates all sorts of conversations, because we can talk about change in the academy sense, in a scholarly way, but really change fundamentally is when the rubber meets the road and you figure things out. And as you figure it out, what I describe is you make the road by walking. And the more we can be aligned early on to walking together, the more we can figure out things earlier on together. And the cool thing about great ideas like this is that it stimulates other opportunity, it stimulates other collaboration, and that's what's exciting to me about economic opportunity for working families, folks who have non-traditional jobs, the gig economy, and making Destination Anchorage something that people can reimagine than making it the city that they want to be in. So thank you for the presentations today. All of these presentations are available on the website through the Community and Economic Development Committee. And with that, we'll adjourn at 10:27.